It's the only female chain gang in America.
We already got one chain going on the other side.
And that makes the sheriff of Maricopa County, Arizona, a very proud man.
I take some heat on it, but I also take the credit.
Why do you take heat?
Oh, some people don't like it. It's a civil liberties union, Amnesty International, Justice Department, but it's been here 3 years, and it'll be here as long as I'm the sheriff.
Sheriff Joe Arpaio, as he never tires of telling you, is elected by the voters of Maricopa County. And the voters like to see their prisoners in chains.
Everybody grab it.
On Thursday mornings, the burials at Maricopa County's public cemetery start early. The deceased was an indigent, a scrap of flotsam on the ocean of American prosperity, who died without the money for a funeral.
Hear our prayer this day as we come to the burial place of Christine.
The county provides the cheap wooden coffin and pays the preacher.
Christine was 44 years old. She was hit by an automobile.
The pallbearers come free of charge from the county jail. It's a win-win exercise, claims Sheriff Joe. The county saves money, and the prisoners learn a lesson.
We let them know what the cause of death was. Was it a drug overdose? Was it alcoholism? Are they John Does? If you don't think that's a wake-up call, it is for these people. When they get out, I hope they become good citizens.
The sheriff had taken time out of his 14-hour day to be with us at the cemetery. He takes time out for every visiting TV crew. He loves to show off his chain gang, and he loves to show off his new armored car.
I don't like to talk about it, but I received many threats. Some are very serious. So my staff went out and bought this car for me, paid by money seized from drug traffickers. It's supposed to take missiles and machine guns and everything else. So I think it's a great savings, and we'll see what happens if it works.
Lock them up. Try to get them off. It's not working.
Please don't move.
Please don't move.
Some of Joe Arpaio's most ardent admirers have joined the sheriff's posse.
It's not working.
There are 3,000 volunteers in the Maricopa County posse. None of them are paid a dime, but 800 have already completed the training that allows them to carry a gun on duty.
All right, just do it slow. Lock them up.
Tonight they're being taught how to stop an assailant from getting to the gun before they do. And Frank Adelman, a young 66 as he puts it, is having trouble.
Okay, lock them up. Get them off. Cock it. Go. Go, go, go.
Police, don't move.
Frank is an enthusiastic posse man in Sun City West. It's a retirement community in rural Maricopa County that doesn't have a full-time police force, and the sheriff's deputies are thinly spread.
And then you're just swinging it loose.
So why do you need the gun?
Well, to be honest with you, my son is an investigator for the state of North Carolina. And when he found out that I put on a uniform and a badge, he said, "Dad, you better get yourself a weapon."
For Frank and his training partner, Brooke DeWalt, Joe Arpaio is a model sheriff.
Sheriff Joe Arpaio has a lot of innovative ideas, to say the least. He's always got something going on.
Very well put.
And
we're next to the dump over there, the dog pound there, and the waste disposal plant.
Joe Arpaio's tent city was one of his first innovative ideas.
You get smells from 4 different directions.
A few dozen Korean War vintage tents hold up to 1,200 convicted prisoners. They cost the county $100,000 6 years ago. A new jail would have cost $60 million.
What do the prisoners think about living here? I mean, do you get complaints from them?
Well, yeah. Why would you like living here at 120 degrees in the summertime? But they complain about everything.
The way the sheriff sees it, the acute discomfort of Tent City is just another bonus.
It's great to save money, but it's also to make it tough. Why should you live better on the inside than on the outside? I don't think that's right. When you commit a crime and you're convicted, and they're all convicted in here, you should be punished. And since I'm elected, and I report to nobody except the people that I serve. I can use the word punishment. Okay, how you doing?
Sheriff Joe loves to confront his own prisoners, especially with a camera present, and play the tough guy.
It's going to get hot here. You were here in the winter time. Now you're going to see the summertime.
But the fact is, these people are not here for heinous crimes. Serious offenders go to the state penitentiary. Only petty criminals sentenced to less than a year end up in the sheriff's jails.
I'm in here for driving on a suspended license.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, how much time do you get for that?
How much time?
They're fine defaulters, traffic offenders, possessors of marijuana.
That's 6 months this time.
Yeah. I'm an equal opportunity incarcerator. I don't believe in discrimination. So that's why we put women in the tent. Sex with a minor?
This 18-year-old slept with a 15-year-old boy. The sentence for having sex with a minor is a year in jail and lifetime probation.
Wow, lifetime probation?
It's mandatory for all sex offenders.
Even Joe Arpaio is a bit startled by that one.
Well, in this county, you get more time for that than you do for killing people, it looks like.
That's true.
But whatever they're in for, Joe believes that jail should be humiliating for his charges. That's why he introduced the striped uniforms.
Because I don't like prisoners wearing the same color uniforms as our professional nurses and doctors, the green scrub, the blue scrub, plus the orange that hard-working people wear. Why should they wear the same color uniforms? So I went back to the James Cagney and Alcatraz, and now we have striped uniforms.
The inmates of Tent City are used to camera crews. The big American networks have been here, and the cable channels, and the BBC. So have the Danes and the Germans, the Koreans and the Japanese. Joe gives the conducted tour to all of them.
Joe Arpaio is as dangerous to this community as any street thug currently in his jail. And the reason for that is because he has sort of sold this community on a concept.
Donna Hamm is a former judge and founder of a pressure group which fights for prisoners' rights in Arizona.
And that is that prisoners are not people, that they have no connection to the community, that they are all in black hats and his people are all in white hats. These are somebody's mother, somebody's brother, somebody's father, somebody's son.
Well, she complains about prisons too, not just my jails. Let her complain. She's a nice lady.
Sheriff Joe has been brushing off criticism from human rights groups for years.
Amnesty International came down here. I let them go through the jails. I'm one guy who lets everybody go through the jails. They didn't like it. I told them to go back to Iraq, where they came from.
Most complaints are directed not at Tent City or the chain gangs, but at the draconian conditions inside the main county jail at Madison Street in downtown Phoenix. Here, thousands of detainees are fed the same cheap meals, wear the same striped uniforms and bright pink boxer shorts as the convicted prisoners. They too are forbidden girly magazines and all but the most educational television. They have minimal recreation, no coffee, no cigarettes. Yet the inmates of Madison Street Jail are not convicted criminals, but unconvicted detainees awaiting trial. Joe Arpaio has a hard time seeing the difference. You're treating them as though they're criminals when they're not criminals yet.
Well, how should I treat them? They are criminals.
They haven't been convicted of any crime.
Well, I think when you take 99%, I pretty well will show you that 99%. I apologize for those 1%, not even that are not guilty. So am I going to give that 1% steak? No, everybody eats the bologna. I run the jail.
He has created a jailhouse culture which is very dangerous. And it's a jailhouse culture that basically says it's okay, it says to jailers, it's okay to brutalize these human beings, to beat them, to punish them. In fact, in his newsletters, he talks about wanting his jails to be, quote, bad jails, and he wants his jails to be places of punishments.
Mike Manning is no bleeding heart liberal. He's a leading Phoenix lawyer with an office at the top end of town. He's just won $8.5 million from the insurers of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office to compensate the family of the late Scot Norberg. On June the 1st, 1996, Norberg was admitted to the Maricopa County Jail accused of resisting arrest. By noon on June the 2nd, he was dead.
Do you have any pain, bleeding, fever, infections, skin problems, lice, scabies, open sores?
The jail admissions procedure is supposed to weed out the sick and mentally disturbed and refer them for immediate treatment.
HIV positive array?
Scot Norberg was suffering from severe dehydration. He was delirious, incoherent, and barely able to stand. But he received no medical attention. Instead, he was searched in the normal way and left in a cell overnight.
No, get out there.
The next morning, here at Madison Street, he failed to respond to an officer's instructions. Without provocation, say fellow prisoners, he was set upon.
They beat him for about 4 or 5 minutes in tank 6, turned him over, handcuffed him behind his back, so he was face down on the concrete, pulled his arms up behind him and drug him down face first out into the hallway, where they continued to kick him in the throat, kicked in his larynx. Now there are 12 guards beating on this guy. Then they bring a restraint chair in.
The restraint chairs can still be seen in the admission hallway at Madison Street, and Sergeant Janet Snow can explain the proper procedure for their use.
As they're placed in the restraint chair, it's observed by a supervisor while the officer restrains the inmate. Once the inmate is in there, they're checked by a nurse to make sure that they're okay.
But that's not how it worked with Scot Norberg.
They continue to stun him with an electric stun device. Then they put a gag a towel over his face and nose, mouth, and part of his neck, push his head forward until he can't breathe. And he dies after 11 or 12 minutes of the most excruciating torture a human being could experience.
Despite the evidence of massive bruising and multiple electric stun gun marks, the county medical examiner declared that Norberg's death was accidental. Sheriff Arpaio still insists that his department's insurers should never have settled the case.
Well, we didn't have to settle. That was the insurance company, without my knowledge, settled that case.
So do you deny that any of your officers behaved illegally and brutally in that case?
No, they were doing their job. Unfortunately, the person did die. The coroner or the medical examiner ruled accidental death, and we'll see what happens.
Those guys were exonerated from doing anything wrong. Now that's incredible.
And they're still down there in the jail?
They're still down there. They're still in uniform. They were exonerated.
Even before Norberg's death, a federal Department of Justice inquiry had found a pattern of excessive use of force and negligent medical treatment in Sheriff Arpaio's jails. More than 100 other former inmates are pursuing civil suits against the Sheriff's Department. And on the day we were there, this prisoner was released without charge. His arms were still swollen and cut from the way he'd been handcuffed when Mesa City Police arrested him 10 days earlier.
Did you get to see a doctor while you were in there?
I just barely saw him the other day. It took him about a week, about 4 or 5 days, and finally they saw me. And then they had never even told me anything, and they gave me some pain pills or something like that. Now they're just releasing me, and I don't know if it's broken or nothing.
The FBI is currently investigating alleged violations of the human rights of both prisoners and detention officers. But Joe Arpaio says it's all a conspiracy by his political rivals.
I'm not paranoid, but the point is, they know I have 80–90% approval rating. They know I will be reelected like that. So by harassing me, they're probably hoping maybe we can make it so tough that he'll say, to heck with it all, I don't need this, I'm not running again. But I got news, I am running again, just for spite, because I'm going to serve the people of this county, and no one's going to drive me away with these phony allegations.
You know, with Scottsdale PD, 82nd Street, really don't know what's going on.
It's true that Sheriff Joe Arpaio seems as popular as ever with Maricopa County voters. They don't see the inside of the county jails. What they do see are hundreds of volunteer posse men like John Kelly helping the sheriff's deputies fight crime in the mushrooming outer suburbs of the Phoenix conurbation.
We just try to stay out of their way and help them do their job. If it's like any other night, we'll back up on car stops. We may go to some fights, burglary calls.
On the evening we were with John Kelly, there were no dramatic incidents. just the usual crop of false alarms and domestic quarrels.
So he's been drinking?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not driving, you said?
No, I wouldn't let him drive it.
This was the most exciting thing that happened. A sheriff's department helicopter helped Mesa City Police to capture 3 Hispanic migrants suspected of pilfering material from a building site.
So we're sorting it out right now. We're trying to figure out if they were here to take property from here or find out what they were doing here.
A survey by the Arizona State University has shown that the sheriff's gimmicks have had no effect at all on whether petty criminals like these re-offend after a stint in his jails. What the gimmicks have done is maintain Joe Arpaio's profile as the toughest sheriff in America.
It's important for him to get elected in this county that he appear like he's tough on crime. And so he goes out and he appeals to the darkest, to the basest side of our human nature, this anti-crime, which is really an easy way for a person to get votes.
Well, I stay at 80–90% approval rating for the last 6 years. I can't get 100 because maybe they won't vote for me. But as long as the people like it, I'm elected and I serve the people, and I'll keep doing what I feel is correct.
It's a brave observer in America who questions the virtues of democracy. But the sheriff of Maricopa County has proved a simple point. A good way to win over those who do vote is to play the medieval tyrant over those who don't.